welcome back. Today we are looking at the chronological order of how we should be reading Ezra through Nehemiah and all the in-betweens, afters, and befores. The first place where you would start your reading is not in Ezra actually. It's going to be in 2 Chronicles chapter 36 verse 22 through 23. And it's the almost exact same verses you find in Ezra 1 through 4, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to read 2 Chronicles chapter 36, verse 22 through 23, and then Ezra 1 through 4, just so you can see what I mean. In the first year of King Cyrus of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken through Jeremiah, the Lord roused the spirit of King Ezra of Persia to issue a proclamation throughout his entire kingdom, and also to put it in writing. This is what King Cyrus of Persia says: "The Lord, the God of the heavens, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth and has appointed me to build him a temple at Jerusalem in Judah. Any of his people among you may go up, and may the Lord his God be with him." Now I'm going to read Ezra 1, verses 1 through 4. In the first year of King Cyrus of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken through Jeremiah, the Lord roused the spirit of King Cyrus to issue a proclamation throughout his entire kingdom and to put it in writing. This is what King Cyrus of Persia says: "The Lord, the God of the heavens, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth and has appointed me to build him a house at Jerusalem in Judah. Any of his people among you, may his God be with him, and may he go to Jerusalem in Judah and build the house of the Lord, the God of Israel, the God who is in Jerusalem. Let every survivor, wherever he resides, be assisted by the men of that region with silver, gold, goods, and livestock, along with a freewill offering for the house of God in Jerusalem." So you can see that these are very similar, and that's why you would include 2 Chronicles 36 verse 22 through 23 into the order in which you would like to read the story of Ezra, which goes through Nehemiah and also includes Zerubbabel. He does not have a book named after him. So basically, what I just read is saying the Lord himself stirred the spirit of King Cyrus and compelled him to have a desire to rebuild the temple, the house of the Lord, and he wanted to use the people of Israel to do that. And King Cyrus, because he was obedient and faithful and obeying the Spirit of the Lord, he was blessed, and these people, the God's chosen people, were blessed. We see later in these verses that the family heads of Judah and Benjamin, all the Levites and the priests that God had roused, immediately got ready and prepared to go rebuild the temple. And they were blessed because of it. We looked last week about the character and the position of the people who returned. They were not the wealthy, but the people who were less than, mostly impoverished situations. Those were the people that returned. But God was faithful, knowing that they did not have much to give or much to get them there. Their neighbors blessed them with silver and gold, and in turn they offered up what they had as sacrifices to the Lord. And we see that later in chapter 3, which we'll discuss next week. But for now, this is an encouragement to know that if you are obedient to the Lord, he's going to bless you. This blessing might be reaped in present time. It could be reaped later in life or only reaped in heaven. But obedience is encouraged, and it blesses us just by doing it because it's what God has called us to do. And ultimately, whatever God calls us to do is for his glory and our good. So we can be blessed just because of that. And we see that their work was not in vain because Cyrus also contributed to the blessings and returned all that was stolen from the temple back when Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon sieged the city. Anything that was stolen was returned completely to Sheshbazzar, the prince of Judah, or the governor of Judah. In chapter 2, we see more of the people that returned to Jerusalem to rebuild, and who their forefathers were, and the number of people that came from each section. Next week we'll look a little bit deeper at some of the names that are mentioned before the list begins. Their names obviously have unique meanings, and so that's something cool to look at, but that's something for next week. For now, we're going to pause the study on Ezra 1 and continue the chronological order in which it is encouraged to read, not necessary, but it helps make things make sense. And so we're going to look at that. So from 2 Chronicles 36, 22 through 23, we read Ezra 1 through 6, and then we take a pause at Ezra, and we go to Haggai, and we read chapters 1 and 2, which completes the book of Haggai. And then from Haggai, we go to Zechariah, and we read chapters 1 through 14, which completes the book of Zechariah. And then we go to Esther, and we read chapters 1 through 10. The story of Esther is believed to take place after Ezra 6. And so this is the time of King Xerxes, which is mentioned in Ezra. He's actually mentioned in chapter 4 of Ezra. And that can get kind of confusing, but Ezra is believed to be written much later after the events of Ezra took place. And then from Esther, we go to Malachi. Now, Malachi is not positively dated, like they are not sure when it was written, but the book seems to address some of the issues of the period just prior to the book of Ezra and Nehemiah and the reforms that were brought by them, which is around 460 BC. And so that's why it's kind of included in this chronological order. After Malachi 1 through 4, we're going to read Psalm 50. From Psalm 50, we pick up where we left off in Ezra and read chapters 7 through 10 and complete the book of Ezra, and go straight to Nehemiah, where we read the whole book, Nehemiah 1 through 13. And then we end with Psalm 126, which has the feeling of celebration that is experienced by Ezra and Nehemiah at the completion of the temple. Okay, that's all for this week. I hope you come back next week for the breakdown of Ezra 2 and 3, which goes a little bit deeper than you normally would and has some pretty cool insights. So I hope you come back.